Hello, my name is Joshua and I will be discussing the glutes and its structure and function, origin and insertion points, and the bones they act on. The glutes consists of three muscles: the gluteus maximus, the largest muscle of the three, which is responsible for producing hip extension; the glute medius, which is the outer part of the pelvis and is responsible for hip abduction and hip stabilization, and it is also part of the lateral oblique sling; and the glute minimus, which is a deep muscle underneath the glute medius and is responsible for producing hip abduction and stabilization similar to the glute medius. Since the glutes consists of three muscles, we will have to discuss the origin and insertion points of those three muscles. The first muscle being the gluteus maximus, where the origin is at the posterior ilium and the insertion is at the lesser trochanter. For the gluteus medius, the origin is at the posterior ilium and the insertion is at the greater trochanter, unlike the gluteus maximus, which was the lesser trochanter, and it has the same origin and insertion for the gluteus minimus as well, the gluteus medius. The bones that the glutes act on are the femur, the ilium, and the sacrum and coccyx, otherwise known as the tailbone. I will now be showing two strength exercises for glutes on the sagittal plane, two strength exercises for glutes on the frontal plane, and one stretch to target the glute maximus and medius. The first exercise is a glute bridge done on the sagittal plane. This movement accomplishes hip extension in the concentric phase, the primary action of the glute maximus. The second exercise is a deadlift, which produces hip extension as well when coming up from the eccentric phase. For the frontal plane exercises, the first one is lateral walks. The tension can be more loaded with bands around the thighs. This produces hip AB abduction, which is the primary action of the glute medius and minimus. The second exercise on the frontal plane would be a side-lying leg raise. Similar to the hip AD adductors, this is a side leg raise for abductors, producing hip AB abduction, fighting against gravity, which pushes your leg down. A stretch for both the glute med and max is a pigeon pose, where you are in a hip flexed position as well as hip adducted as well, opposite actions of what the glute max and med do. I wanted to add a figure 4 stretch, which is very similar to the pigeon pose, but can be used for people who are not as flexible yet to do a pigeon pose.